What's good, guys? Fantasy Joe back here with a mock draft Monday, doing an ESPN draft today. Thought I'd switch it up, drafting from the 102. It's a PPR 10-team mock draft. Going to be talking some recent storylines from camp as all NFL training camps are underway now. 40 days till kickoff. That's when I'm recording this Saturday. You guys will get this Monday. Stay tuned. I am dropping my league winners, my RB rankings, my wide receiver rankings, wide receiver league winners, all very soon. Dropping Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Welcome to the best day of the year, draft day.
That was insanely loud. Okay, Jonathan Taylor went at the 101. Normally, I am probably taking Cooper Kupp at the 102 in a PPR mock draft, except for my 101 is still on the board, and Christian McCaffrey. PPR, he's too good to pass up at the running back position. I think he'll catch over 100 passes. I think Cooper Kupp is the clear 103 there. I would personally go Cooper Kupp. In a PPR league, I would go Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor. In half-point PPR, I would be going Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, then Cooper Kupp. PPR, I just think Cooper Kupp by far is the odds-on favorite to lead the league in receptions. I think he could do it by a wide margin. I believe he led the entire league by 22 receptions last season. I think he could do something similar to that. Maybe not so many receptions, but I think he's got a really good chance at 125 catches this year. Derrick Henry goes at 4. It's a little surprising in a PPR league, but do what you got to do. Not going to criticize anyone else's draft strategy. He could go for 2,000 yards. This is a money league as well. This is not just a mock draft on ESPN or a real draft. This is actually a real draft, and it's for the ESPN Plus, so $250,000. I think if you draft the best team. Yeah, I wanted to bring you guys this one, 10-teamer. Normally I bring you a lot of 12. See how my strategy changes a little bit when you go to 10 teams. Have a lot of time before our first pick. That's the perk of getting that 102, though. Gotta love that. Let's take a look. I've got some storylines we can discuss. We can keep track of the draft as we go as well. Honestly, see a lot of value on the board. If you're getting Austin Eckler in a PPR draft at the 107, would love that. Same with Justin Jefferson. Both those guys I see as absolute studs. Dalvin Cook's a value already in drafts. DeAndre Swift is another name that's very interesting in a PPR league. Oh, yeah, so let's talk some storylines. I think the biggest storyline out of camps so far might be that Kenny Gainwell down in Philadelphia has been running with the first team, playing a running back, as well as splitting out wide, getting some snaps like that, and Miles Sanders is working with the second team. Now, it's still very early. They could just be, get more competition, letting guys split rep step to make them earn their job, things like that. But I think this is very, very promising for Kenny Gainwell. He should immediately shoot up in a draft, start being taken higher because of his pass-catching skill set. Honestly, he looked really good from an efficiency standpoint last year. Actually, let's pull up his stats while we're sitting here, because I am pretty sure he was doing pretty darn well last year and just really wasn't getting a ton of opportunity. As you can see, 4.3 a carry, not bad. 7.7 yards per reception, not bad either. But 33 receptions as a rookie for a player that's not playing a ton is not bad. And they have the number one offensive line according to Pro Football Focus. So I think anyone who's playing there at running back should be pretty good for efficiency-wise on the ground. And when you bring that pass-catching skill set, it immediately offers upside for that offense. Another thing that this makes me think about Philadelphia in general is maybe they're playing Kenny Gainwell because they want to throw the ball more. I initially was thinking that they are going to go back to their run-heavy ways, but with the addition of A.J. Brown, now they're playing Kenny Gainwell as the RB1. It's not everything, but I think this could be a situation where, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and they are pass-heavy this year now. I used to think, like I said, they'd be very run-heavy, but now I really think it's a true 50-50, if not maybe favoring a little bit more of the more pass-heavy approach. Now that they have Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Kenny Gainwell, some weapons for Jalen Hurts to work with. Maybe they're thinking that's what the issue was. He didn't have enough weapons to succeed. Honestly, I think that Jalen Hurts is going to struggle regardless throwing the ball. Now, I think he'll be great for fantasy, and he's a great draft pick. Now, I think this boosts his stock overall. Like I said, if they are more pass-heavy, it gives him more opportunities to run the ball himself. He ran the ball himself around the goal line a lot. Now he's got more of a pass-catching running back in tow. Adds A.J. Brown as well. Another year in that system, another year with Devonta Smith. A lot of things have improved in his situation there for him, and he was already a dominant football player last year for fantasy football. Okay, we're coming up to our pick a little bit. We got pick 19. We got pick 22 here. Like I said, this is a 10-team league, so we're going to see how my strategy changes a little bit with a 10-teamer. Stephon Diggs, I think, is still a great value. He's still on the board. I think Aaron Jones is very interesting in a PPR league as an RB2. I think he'll catch a lot of passes this season. Another thing I've heard, Panthers camp, they said, and this is what I expect, I think this is what everyone expects, it's all but certain that Baker Mayfield will be the starting quarterback for them. They're keeping a competition just for the team and things like that, but everyone is pretty much convinced Baker is going to be the starting quarterback, and I think that's good for everyone involved. Honestly, Christian McCaffrey got a slight bump up in my projections just because I think Baker will be the starter when they got him. I think he's just way better than Sam Darnold. If we just look at touchdown percentage, it sounds crazy, but his is 45% higher, just touchdown percentage across the board, than Sam Darnold's for his career. That just brings, a lot more upside to everyone involved. I think DJ Moore could finally have more than 4 receiving touchdowns in the season. That would be nice for him. CeeDee Lamb still out there. Would not mind having CeeDee Lamb as my wide receiver 1. He's the last guy in a certain tier to me as far as wide receivers go. Now that a lot of these guys are gone, especially in the PPR league. I view Mike Evans gets a slight tier down, although I still really do like him, but doesn't have the same upside in this type of league. See a lot of names out there that I still really like, though. We saw CeeDee Lamb go there. Jones, then Fournette. Okay, so my top guy right now would be Tyreek Hill. Now, that is not going to happen. Honestly, I really want to get in a PPR league. As much as I like James Conner, his touchdown upside, I really like Saquon Barkley as well. What I'm going to do, I didn't even envision myself starting a team like this. I'm going to take James Conner here because of his touchdown upside. I think he'll also be involved in the passing game this season. We saw him catch quite a few passes in games that Chase Edmonds missed. So I'll take him there, and hopefully I can snag Saquon Barkley. He gets past Buff Toddler and his 2 picks right here. A bit of a risk, but even if he doesn't, there's still quality names on the board. I can pivot to a Mike Evans. Javonte Williams even would be a very good consolation prize to me personally. Doesn't have the same juice in a PPR league. Oh, Buff Toddler got me there. Took both the guys I really wanted more. Good on him. Here's what we'll do, though. It's a PPR league. Difference maker at the 22. This is what I'm talking about. Differences in a 10-team league. I'm going to take Travis Kelce here. You can't be afraid to pivot when things like that happen. Especially I'm getting Travis Kelce as a 22nd pick in this league. PPR as well. I view him as easily the number 1 tight end to me in PPR leagues because of the volume that he'll receive now that Tyreek Hill is gone. I've already stated in his fantasy profile, I think he loses some efficiency, some ADOT, some things like that, but I think his touchdown upside goes up overall. I think his volume does increase, and I think in a PPR league to get him, he's a true difference maker. I really like the team I have so far. I think Christian McCaffrey, James Conner, Travis Kelce, the ceiling of this team in a PPR league is extremely high, and that's what I really like. In hindsight now, I'm thinking would I have taken Saquon over James Conner? The answer is no, just because I feel like the touchdown upside with James Conner is just so high. And I don't think that there'll be a huge difference in receptions between the two. I do think Barkley is probably, 55 to 60. I think James Conner is probably 45 to 55, but that's not a big enough difference maker when we talk about the touchdown difference. I think Jaquan Barkley has a chance to be much, much more efficient, but touchdowns are king in fantasy football, and there's no telling that James Conner can't be efficient, especially if he's as involved in the passing game as I believe he will be. They have added Daryl Williams there. I'm really surprised Javonte Williams is still on the board, to be honest with you. Pick 26, and he's still going. We're in round 4 at this point. That's probably the most surprising thing to me of this draft thus far. Yeah, I've been recording a ton of content for you guys this week. Have so many things going. Really, really excited about it. Been just really grinding on those fantasy profiles, trying to get those out before August 1st. A bunch of those out for you guys so you guys can look at the prime players, know what to do in those first rounds of your drafts, get an idea of it. And now a lot of my videos are coming out on draft strategy. That's why I'm putting out my league winners rankings, all that kind of stuff. You guys can start seeing the value where you can, hit on some of these guys and get the guys that are going to give you a big-time advantage over the rest of your league. Another guy I think is a solid value in PPR leagues, gets a bump for me. Just talking about the scoring differences, is Keenan Allen. He's a good big-time PPR guy. Has, I think, close to 100 catches, if not 100, each of the last 4 seasons. That's consistent production at that wide receiver spot. Still a lot of names I really like out here. And I'm going to have to hammer this wide receiver position some of these later drafts, but that's fine by me. I've got a ton of guys out here I like. So, yeah, I'm just going to start stacking tons of these guys. No, I do not want to leave. I want to draft. Oh, another thing to point out, another storyline. We can talk a few of these. Najee going with no face mask wants to see guys' eyes. I think that slight bump for me in efficiency went from 3.9 a carry to 4 yards a carry in my projections. Just that intensity. Talking more real stuff. Julio Jones obviously signed with the Bucs. Talked about that a little bit in my wide receiver rankings video that will be dropping soon. Gave a slight adjustment to Mike Evans. I think overall, Julio, although I am somewhat interested because of the high pass volume, 731 attempts as a team last year, 719 for Tom Brady. There's a lot to go around there. And Chris Godwin is back at camp, though. I do wonder, though, does he miss a week or two just because they have the luxury of having Julio Jones? I think that's a possibility for sure. I think overall it's mainly a boost for me. It's a slight tick down to Mike Evans. I was really high on him coming into the season. Slight tick down to him. Slight tick down for Chris Godwin as well, just coming off that injury. Not really interested in Russell Gage very much anymore at all. But I think it is an upgrade for Tom Brady overall. So I think that's the winners and losers of it. And honestly, I'm not too affected for Mike Evans. I still think he's got a very similar situation that he's had in years previously. You can bank on 1,000 yards, and I think he's got a great chance at double-digit touchdowns. And even with the addition of Julio Jones, I'm not so convinced his targets still don't go up from last season. 16% target share could go up to 18%. Receive just a few more targets, get those yards up to 1,100, 1,200, something like that, and he's going to be a real difference maker for fantasy football if you're snagging him in the 3rd round of your drafts where he's currently going in some leagues. And I think with the addition of Julio Jones, the way the ADPs are going to go, I think Mike Evans is going to go down a little bit even more. I already think he was being a little disrespected in drafts just because of name fatigue, things like that. Coming up to 2 picks soon, I have 39 and 42. As you can see the roster on the left, we got McCaffrey, we've got Connor, and we've got Travis Kelce. Haven't drafted Travis Kelce in a whole lot of leagues, but 10-team league, I want to get a difference maker at the tight end position and the quarterback position, those onesie positions. I'm willing to reach a little bit more than I am in other drafts. Need wide receivers coming up here shortly. I'm going to go to the receivers and sort their projections by receptions and see who they have left. Deontay Johnson, that makes sense. Man, they're predicting Wright Williams for 63 receptions. That's a shame. They're going to miss on that by a lot. Let's go to all positions. Okay, so there's still 2 guys to me on the board that are big values. I think one of them will get taken before I draft, but DJ Moore got drafted there? Yeah, that makes sense. I was honestly just going to take DJ Moore and Breece Hall. It was going to be very easy to me. In the PPR setting, DJ Moore just catches a lot of passes. So what I will do, am still going to take Breece Hall. I think he's going to be involved in the passing game. I think he's going to get a lot of volume. I know it's a surprising strategy, starting a PPR league with 3 running backs and a tight end. Did not plan on doing this by any means, but I feel like with Travis Kelce, just that positional advantage and what Christian McCaffrey can be as well. I'm just drafting, best player available. I think him at the end of the 4th in a PPR league. I think Breece Hall's going to catch passes as well. That's definitely in his skill set. I think he had 82 receptions in college, so a high draft pick in the NFL as well. I don't know if Buff Toddler is on auto pick yet. Imagine he's going to take some of these guys. Honestly, he can take a whole lot of receivers. I still got guys I like way down the board. So go ahead, do what you do. Kind of a long wait, though, so I will be snagging one receiver here. Probably going to be Michael Williams. He's my 10th ranked wide receiver. Gets a slight downgrade in the PPR league, but there's still guys down the list that I really like. I definitely like him more than Pittman, Jr., Terry, and Deontay. Marquise Brown's an interesting name, but he's not a PPR guy either. Honestly, I think the most potential for a PPR receiver on this list that I think is going to be discounted is Jerry Jeudy down here at 54. I think he is going to catch a good amount of passes this year. Okay, here we are. I'm going to take Mike Williams here, lock in that receiver. Finished as a wide receiver 1 last year. I think he'll finish as a wide receiver 1 this year. Gave him a $40 million guaranteed extension, $60 million overall. I don't think that means he's going to be less involved in the offense, but that's just me personally. Name I would really like to get back to me is Courtland Sutton. That would be best case scenario. If I could get him or Jeudy in this next round, I would feel thrilled about the way I've started this draft. One of my favorite starts, honestly. I still think either way I'm going to get somebody good at the wide receiver position. I've got enough names that are left. Okay, let's talk about another storyline that's out there. Rhamondre Stevenson has recently cut weight. He's cut down to 225, and the other day he got first-team reps while Damian Harris got second-team reps, and they're using him as the third-down running back. I do think he's going to be used as a third-down running back to start the season with James White rehabbing from that hip injury. He's got a noticeable limp walking around in public. Everyone knows he's not going to be ready to start the season. I think Rhamondre Stevenson will be using that role for a good period of time. I think he could thrive in that role too. He has that skill set. He did well in it, performed well in it last year, and he's going to split first and second down work with Damian Harris. Pierre Strong is there as well. Listen, I wish he wasn't, but he is, and I do think he's going to steal some work, but I think the talent of Rhamondre Stevenson in that situation I'm willing to bet on in the 7th or 8th rounds. Or really, he's going like the 8th or 9th round. I think in that 8th round, I'm willing to swing that bat on Rhamondre Stevenson. Just difference maker in talent. Was ranked top 10, I believe, by PFF last year in running back grade. More opportunity coming his way this year. Lost a little bit of weight. I think all the arrows are pointing the right way for him. He averaged 12 carries per game basically last year. I think he could easily do that again. And then we're talking about the receiving work as well. That's a big enough pie for someone to be very fantasy relevant, especially when you're as talented a runner as he is. I think there's a real chance he finishes ahead of Damian Harris in drafts to me. Yeah, I'm just really excited about him. He was one of my biggest sleepers coming into this offseason. And honestly, I feel like a lot of the arrows were pointing negatively for him recently. Last couple of weeks, they're talking about Pierre Strong, they're doing all this stuff. But now all the word out of camp has just been speaking highly about him and how well he's been doing. Really gave me a big bump for him. Another guy, I talked about him a little bit earlier, it's got a bump. Peter King said he was looked very good at camp, and that's Saquon Barkley. looking for him to regain that form from his rookie year. Coming off that ACL injury last year, to a year removed, this would be the year you think that he could maybe have that burst back. They've got an improved offensive line, and apparently he's looking great. So I am starting to buy in. He got a slight bump in my rankings. I just think he's going to get a ton of volume. He's one of those backs you know is going to get a ton of volume. And, when you talk about someone who's going to get that kind of volume and now is looking like he might be the player he used to be, extremely high upside for Saquon Barkley. Take a look at who's been going recently. So after Mike Williams, it was Gibson, Amon-Ra, Mahomes, Deontay. Deontay's a guy I don't really like taking in drafts either. I do think he's a talented wide receiver, but I just think Chase Claypool, all these other receivers are going to get a little bit bigger slice of that pie than they got last year. And I do think Deontay's ADOT goes up, but I think he loses a lot of targets overall. Brandon Cooks is a value every year in drafts. Travis Etienne going that late I think is a good value as well. Marquise Brown, love the value on him at this point in drafts, especially for the first 6 weeks of the season. I think he's going to be pivotal to a lot of teams getting off to a hot start. I think he's going to be a difference maker when people can plug him into their wide receiver 2 spot or their flex for those first 6 weeks of the season. And he's the number 1 wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. Had a 27% target share as well when he was in college with Kyler Murray. They have that connection. He's a good deep ball thrower. You'll hear more about Marquise Brown very shortly. Justin Herbert as well. When we're talking about differences in a 10-team league, I like taking those QBs a little earlier, but still a lot of good players on the board for me at the quarterback position. No need for me to reach. I think this draft's going to start going a little faster as we get going. I thought more teams would be on auto draft for these later rounds. Yeah, I took Kelce early, so I'm probably not planning on taking a quarterback for a little bit, especially in a 10-team league. Obviously, only 10 starting quarterbacks. I have no problem being the 11th quarterback taken or something like that, or even just being the 10th, getting my 10th ranked quarterback. I think right now I have a top 3 quarterback where I think he'll finish end of season rankings. I think he's going like QB 9 or something right now, so I'm not worried by any means about that. Okay, we are on the clock. We've got 2 picks, 59-62, pretty close together. Definitely leaning towards that wide receiver position for now. Let's take a look at all who's available out there. Pick to me is actually pretty clear. I'm going to take Gabe Davis here. Here, let me check one more thing. I just have no need to take another running back, really. I'll take Gabe Davis. Slide him in there as my wide receiver 2. I feel like it's a slight reach, to be honest with you, taking him there in a 10-teamer. But I just like his upside. I do think he gets a slight downcrease in PPR. He'll be a little bit more boom-bust. Honestly, I have 2 boom-bust receivers in him and Mike Williams. Look to grab some consistency coming up. Man, I am really tempted. Okay, it's between. I don't want to take Godwin just because I don't know if he'll be himself very early in the season. Michael Thomas, not super. I'm going to take Juju Smith-Schuster here in round 7. Just going to swing the bat. He is a big-time PPR guy, and he could be the number 1 receiver in that Chiefs offense. I like just taking swings on upside with it, and I think he could be a little bit more consistent than both of those guys. I thought about taking Michael Thomas, but honestly, Chris Olave is still out there. I'd probably rather take Chris Olave. I don't want two investments in that offense just because of upside, to be honest with you. Thought about Godwin, but just a little too risky for me, to be honest with you. Tua just hit a big throw in practice, 65-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill. We'll see how many times that happens in the NFL this year. Yeah, I think the rest of the draft I'll just be taking shots on receiver. Michael Thomas goes there. I think in PPR leagues, Michael Thomas is interesting. Just really want to take that shot on Chris Olave. I find him very interesting. Saw Jalen Hurts go right after Gabe Davis, too. Like I said, I think if they're going to be more pass-heavy, the ceiling for him is really high. And honestly, I think in fantasy football, one of the things that you guys are doing for upside is taking swings on guys that might not even be what you necessarily think is going to happen. And what I mean is once you get later in drafts, you might think, I don't know, let's say you think there's a 30% Jalen Hurts that they come out and they're more pass-heavy this year. But that means there's a 30% chance that Jalen Hurts is just phenomenal for fantasy football. I mean, there's other factors involved, but I think he's going to be much, much better. And, yes, I think you should be taking chances. The reason I passed on Michael Thomas is because I think Chris Olave is going to be the number one wide receiver in New Orleans this year. But, you know, if Michael Thomas is in the 8th round, all of a sudden it becomes, you know, interesting. 8th, 9th round of a PPR league, it's like, well, I think there's still a good chance Michael Thomas could be really good, you know? And so I'll take him. Chris Olave goes, you know, there's no guarantee I get him. I still get a chance that with the upside that it is Michael Thomas, you know, it's like I could be wrong. They could hit. I think it's more about aiming for upside than necessarily likelihood of outcomes once you get to a certain point in your draft. I don't even necessarily think that we're there yet, but that is just something to consider as far as fantasy football goes, that you want to, like, let's say Courtland Sutton goes in your draft and you really think that he's going to be the number one receiver for the Denver Broncos. I still think Jerry Jeudy is going to be really good for fantasy, and they can't be mutually exclusive, be good for fantasy football, you know? Okay, taking a look at who we've got here, would like to take some more swings at that wide receiver position. Some very interesting things at this point in the draft. Let's take a look at the QBs. Okay, I'm going to draft Matthew Stafford with this pick. I should have taken a look at this guy's team. He had already got a quarterback. That was a mistake. Didn't realize I could honestly just click on their team. Not super used to the ESPN format. I usually do most of my real drafts offline and most of my mock drafts not in here. But showed everyone else down there. But honestly, I don't think he's going to take the receiver that I want here. Rashad Bateman's still on the board. I think he's really interesting. Honestly, there's a lot of really good running back depth still. Kareem Hunt, I think, is a really nice piece. Let's go back to my team. But I've got 3 running backs I really like as well already. I really need to attack that wide receiver position, especially considering I've already spent a pick on my tight end and my quarterback position, and it's only the 8th round. Taking a look at who's still out there, yeah, Russ is just a difference maker to me at this point in the draft. I think he's going to be very good for fantasy football in that new Broncos scheme. Runs the ball as well, gives you that baseline that's really nice for fantasy football. I think Kadarius Toney, too, is a really nice draft pick, high upside. Taking a look at who's still available, okay, I might have to reach a little bit on this guy, but it is just range of outcomes. Okay, I don't like taking him ahead of Rashad Bateman because I think Rashad Bateman has a much higher floor. But I think this guy is the highest ceiling out here, except for maybe Chase Claypool. But I just think he's in a better position to succeed, and that's Chris Olave. In the 9th round, rookie wide receiver out of Ohio State, ran a 4.38, 4.39, something like that. He was in the high 4.3s, but regardless, that's a ridiculous time when you watch a guy that's as smooth a route runner, as big-time a separator as Chris Olave is. The New Orleans Saints invested heavily to trade up and get him, trading multiple first-round picks. Chris Olave, I believe, will receive over 100 targets this season. Top 15 wide receivers usually do as well. Jameis Winston, just completed a deep pass to him earlier today, actually. I just think he's really good. I think he'll be good right away for fantasy football. We once saw a young wide receiver be really good in this New Orleans Saints system from Ohio State, guy by the name of Michael Thomas right away. I think Chris Olave is a better separator, isn't as, definitely a different player than Michael Thomas just in general. But, Michael Thomas hasn't caught a touchdown since like 2019 or 2020 or something ridiculous like that. I'm just, with the difference in draft prices, honestly, it's normally more I'd reach on Chris Olave because I'm at the beginning of this draft and I have a long wait. But you can get Chris Olave in the 9th round of a 12-team league right now, in the 10th round of a 12-team league. It's like I love taking that swing on him, on that talent. And, yeah, he might not be great to start the season, but right now he's not even plugged into my starting lineup. He's not even, he's my behind Juju. But he could end up being a power wide receiver 2 or a big-time flex to me. Rhamondre, Stevenson, and Zach Ertz, some names out there. Zach Ertz is a nice guy to draft in PPR leagues to me, especially when you get that first 6 weeks of this season with no DeAndre Hopkins. I think he could be very fruitful for fantasy football. Snag my charger real quick. Yeah, it's really exciting for fantasy football, though, just getting all these training camps started, all this stuff. Very fun. Yeah, I think Kenneth Gainwell is honestly one of the biggest gainers right off the bat for me, just from all of this. Another storyline, we've talked about this for a while this offseason, and honestly, it's kind of gone the way I said it would. With reports that Tony Pollard is being used more in the Dallas Cowboys training camp thus far, basically using him as the primary third down back, but then using him when Zeke's in the game as a slot receiver. So Zeke is going to be, I think the receptions take a big tick down this year, but I still think he's probably 250 carry back. But I think maybe he's 30 receptions, maybe he's 40 receptions, probably somewhere right around there. Probably similar to a bit of a Joe Mixon light situation to me. As far as usage, he's still in a good offense. I think he's being underdrafted, to be honest with you. I think just the volume. I get why people are taking him there, though, because He doesn't have the same upside that he used to have. But, I mean, he still finished his RB6 last year. I think he'll probably finish. I'd be shocked. Let's put it this way. If Ezekiel Elliott plays 17 games, which he usually is very healthy, that's something you have to give him over the years. A lot of running backs miss games. Ezekiel Elliott's not one of them. If he plays 17 games, I have a hard time envisioning a situation where Ezekiel Elliott doesn't finish as the top 15 running back. I think that's why I'd be so comfortable taking him if I'm getting him in the third round or back end of a second, if I start with Cooper Kupp or something like that, because really, as far as return on draft position, he might not have the upside to win you a league, but he will not lose you a league. Elijah Moore still out there. He's an interesting name. A.J. Dillon still out there. What in the world? There's still some good backs out here. Some good backs. Honestly, I thought this was dry, but there's still some meat in that bone. Names I still like that are out there. Honestly, I like Pollard in a PPR league, not as much as I like Rhamondre Stevenson is upside. Speaking of upside, and we were, A.J. Dillon. Coated in it. Big boy. I think he gets a good amount of goal line work on a run-first team this year in Green Bay. I think they're going to be more run-heavy with the departure of Davante Adams, looking at how that team is built, strong defense, ability to run the ball. We really saw them use that. Excuse me. Really saw them use that play style in year one with LaFleur. I think they will do that again with the departure of Adams, just a lot of less options in the passing game. And if Aaron Jones does go down, I think he'll just get a ton of targets, be a 50-plus catch back on a 17-game pace, even more maybe. Caught 35 passes or something last year in some limited action. So taking a look at who's all out there, man, this one is tough. There's a lot of guys I like. You know what? It's just such a more clear backfield. And Elijah Moore is interesting as well. I think he's going to be a good player. There's just several options there in New York. And I already have Breece Hall. I don't know if I want to be extra invested. I do think Elijah Moore and Breece Hall are the players to own. I'll take A.J. Dillon. I just think he's too good of a value at this point in the draft. And like I said, I just think he offers a ton of upside if anything were to happen to Aaron Jones. Top 5 RB upside. Honestly, if anything happens to A.J. Dillon, though, I think Aaron Jones offers that same type of upside. One thing to point out about the Green Bay running backs in general, though, for both of them, definitely something to monitor, keep an eye on. David Bakhtiari, their all-pro left tackle, absolute stud. Absolute stud. Left tackle, had surgery. Don't know if he'll be ready for the start of the season. That would be a major blow to that offensive line. So just something to keep in mind. Honestly, just got a hype video of Breece Hall apparently making a crazy run. I'll watch that right for this. And guess what, guys? We don't have to decide. I am going to take Elijah Moore here. He's worth the draft pick. Just loading up, taking shots in that wide receiver position. Already have good running back depth. I really like this team in general. I think they got a ton of upside as well. Just really checking a whole lot of boxes for me. Yeah, Breece Hall with a monster run at practice. Obviously, it's practice, though. They're running against the Jets defense, so they got to do that every week. Be a plus matchup. Some names out there that I think are a good value at this point in drafts. One of them was just taken, Allen Lazard. I think he is the wide receiver 1 for the Green Bay Packers. He's a name I definitely would have taken a shot on. Yeah, I think that was a really good draft pick at this point in the draft. I think he's got good touchdown upside. Don't think he'll be a big-time catch guy, but I think for fantasy football, He'll have a pretty high yards per reception. Like I said, he'll have increase in target usage and caught 8 touchdowns last season. I think he'll probably be more utilized around the red zone as well. A name out there I think is still a value, Chase Edmonds. He's probably the starting. I think he's a starting running back for the Miami Dolphins. I'd be surprised if he isn't. He catches passes as well. I think he'll be a really good value in a lot of drafts for honestly a good while. We get to some of these picks and these people just wait so long. Some people are still here though. Some people are drafting. Honestly, I think this is good practice though. Is the biggest thing from these spots, and it's people playing for money. So. Yeah, definitely too as well. I'll keep updating you guys, so just hit that subscribe button and I'll keep you guys glued to what's happening. But I think one of the biggest things is just think about keep listening to the news in these training camps. If X player is looking like the number one wide receiver to every single beat reporter, then he probably is. I mean, steer clear teams like some teams are going to be hard to predict. The New England Patriots are going to be one of those teams week to week at the running back position. It's hard to predict. I think Rhamondre Stevenson will have good weeks. I just believe in the talent. And I believe that, honestly, Pierre Strong could be inactive for several games at the beginning of the season like Rhamondre Stevenson was last year. And Rhamondre Stevenson played great. He was PFF's number 1 ranked running back in preseason. So even Pierre Strong has a strong campaign. He'll probably be inactive. And then you're looking basically at Damian Harris and Rhamondre Stevenson as the 2 guys. But, the 49ers, the San Francisco 49ers, I'm not really going to care a whole lot what Kyle Shanahan says one way or the other too much, unless he's just bashing on a guy. Then I'll be like, okay, this guy's definitely in the doghouse. But Brandon Ayuk was a fantasy darling last year, being drafted on all his potential, all this stuff. And then Kyle Shanahan basically just came out and was like, well, I don't like the way he's working. I hate him right now. And he was just done for fantasy. So keep an eye on what these beat reporters are saying as far as this guy or that guy is, in this role or that role. A lot of times that stuff can become a little bit more clear than you actually think it will be. We're starting to get going here a little bit. Yeah, I wish guys would either pick quickly or just leave and be on auto draft. Because at this point in the draft, too, it's not like we're splitting atoms or anything. I think a solid PPR receiver, I think Robert Woods. I'm going to take this swing, though, on Kenny Golladay and that upside. At this point in the draft, speaking of upside, I think Brandon Ayuk, too, at this point in drafts is worthy of a draft pick. I'm going to take James Cook, though. I just think he's going to be utilized in the passing game, catch a lot of passes in PPR leagues. I think he'd be a solid flex play, just another running back depth piece. I feel really good. I mean, I've got him, Dillon, and then 3 backs I drafted. You just need a good amount of running backs in any fantasy football league because of the way injuries are. I could take another shot on a receiver, but I also have 4 bench receivers that I think all have high upside. You hope one of those shakes out. You can plug them in as a strong flex, a wide receiver 2 or something like that. One of them could end up being a wide receiver 2 as well. You never know. I might take a pick. Honestly, in drafts, we'll see. I got an interesting proposition because I might be able to get I think he'll probably get taken. I might be able to. There's a world, though, where I could draft Sky Moore with my 14th round pick. If you can get Juju in the 8th, Sky Moore in the 14th, I really feel like, MVS, I guess, could be, but you're probably getting the number 1 wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs if you draft both those guys. Christian Watson's still out there, too. He's another name you could take a shot on. MVS is still out there if you want to take a shot on him, but I would prefer Sky Moore to MVS, personally. Also, yes, there's reports Sky Moore being utilized in screens, caught a nice contested catch down the field as well. Good to see him making some plays out there early, establishing some rapport with Patrick Mahomes, just letting him know, hey, I'm a playmaker, I'm a dog, you can trust me. And, the screen thing, I like utilizing him in some design ways to get the ball in his hands and let him be a weapon. Computer starting to run overdrive here. You can hear just... I don't know if you can hear that on your guys' end or not. Hopefully not. Yeah, I got one more positional pick, though, and then we're just taking defense and kickers. So hopefully this guy hurries up. Yeah, like I said, make sure you guys check out my my rankings, wide receiver rankings, running back rankings. If you guys want, I'll come out with part 2 of those very quickly. What else was I going to say about that? Oh, league winners are coming very soon, and MS are doing values, busts, sleepers, all that stuff. So stick around. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you nasty. Julio just went. That's an interesting pick. I think that's worthy of a shot in the 14th round. High upside. He could, if he's regained that form. I think Julio's still a really good receiver, too, when he plays. I think he's just been struggling with injuries more than anything. Sky Moore is here. I did say I was going to pick him, and I will. Okay, we're looking at defense or kickers. Carlson had a great season last year. Interested in him. Let's take a look at the defenses that are out there, though. You know what? I will take Carlson. Let's just take that shot. Take a look at the defenses. Nobody really cares who I get with my defense, though, so I'll just let that go. Let's review the team. So I got Russell Wilson, Christian McCaffrey, James Conner, Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, Travis Kelce, Breece Hall, Carlson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chris Olave, A.J. Dillon, Elijah Moore, Kenny Galladay, James Cook, and Sky Moore rounded it out. Insert any defense you like after this list. I really appreciate anyone who watched this whole video, checked out the team. Hit that subscribe button, like, and comment down below. Really helps me out, helps out the algorithm, and I'll respond to all comments. Let me know if you guys like this format, if I should do more drafts like this or not. This has been Fantasy Joe. Thank you guys for watching.